I had always been a woman of routine. I liked my tea steaming hot with a dash of honey and a sprinkle of cinnamon. The mundane comfort of my morning ritual was something I cherished. As I sat in the quiet kitchen, my slightly swollen belly pressed against the kitchen table, I felt a strange flutter of excitement mixed with trepidation. Today was the day I would tell Victor, my husband of 3 years, about the baby. I had rehearsed the moment in my head 100 times, picturing his face lighting up with joy and surprise. Little did I know, my life was about to take a turn I could never have anticipated. As I sipped my tea, I smiled to myself, thinking about how happy Victor would be upon returning from his business trip to the good news of my pregnancy. After 3 years of marriage, we were looking forward to our first child. As I contemplated on how I should break the good news to Victor, my phone buzzed, breaking the tranquil silence of the morning. I reached for it, expecting a sweet message from Victor about how much he was looking forward to coming home. But what I saw sent a chill down my spine. The screen displayed a text from an unknown number with a series of images attached. The first was a picture of Victor, shirtless, sprawled out on a hotel bed. The next few were more intimate, showing him wrapped in the arms of a woman I had never seen before. The caption was like a knife to my soul, he wasn't really on a business trip. My hand trembled as I scrolled through the images, each one a painful blow. The final picture was a sonogram, with a text bubble from the unknown sender saying, "Guess who's expecting?" The teacup slipped from my grasp, shattering on the floor. The sound echoed through the house, a stark contrast to the silence that had once filled the room. I felt the warm tea seep through my socks, but I couldn't bring myself to move. My eyes remained glued to the screen, reading the words over and over again. It couldn't be true. It couldn't be. The front door swung open, and Victor's heavy footsteps resonated through the hallway. "Lily, I'm home," he called out cheerfully, oblivious to the turmoil unfolding in the kitchen. I looked up, the phone clutched to my chest, my heart racing. I knew I had to confront him. I had to know the truth. As he entered the room, the sight of my distressed expression caused him to stop in his tracks. "What's wrong?" he asked, his smile fading into a look of concern. The shattered pieces of the teacup glinted in the morning light, the spilled liquid a dark stain against the white tiles. Victor took a step closer, his eyes searching mine. "Lily," he repeated, his voice softer now. I handed him the phone, unable to find the words. The images and text messages laid bare the truth of his infidelity. I watched as the color drained from his face, his eyes widening with shock and guilt. He stuttered, trying to piece together a coherent defense. "It's not what you think," he began, his voice shaking. "It's just complicated." My heart felt like it was being torn apart as I listened to him stumble over his words, trying to justify the unjustifiable. The weight of his deceit pressed down on me, making it hard to breathe. "Complicated?" I echoed, my voice laced with disbelief. "You've been seeing her for 2 years? Having a baby with her? How is that complicated?" Each word was a dagger, cutting deeper into the fabric of our marriage. The love I had for him was slowly unraveling, revealing the harsh reality beneath. Victor continued looking at the phone, his eyes flicking through the incriminating messages and photos. He sighed heavily, the weight of his actions settling upon his shoulders. "I can explain," he said, his voice low and pleading. "It just happened. We had a connection, I didn't mean for it to go this far." My eyes narrowed, the anger within me beginning to boil over. "Don't you dare," I said, my voice trembling with rage. "Don't you dare sit there and try to make this sound like some sort of accident. You've been with her, Victor. 2 years. Victor rubbed his temples, his eyes cast down to the floor. "It's not like that," he murmured, his voice barely a whisper. "I never meant to hurt you." My laugh was bitter, cutting through the silence like a shard of glass. "Don't," I said firmly. "Don't you dare say that to me. You knew exactly what you were doing." He looked up, desperation etched on his face. "Lily, please, we can work it out. We can get through this." The absurdity of his words hung in the air. I felt a surge of anger, but I held it back. I took a deep breath and spoke calmly. How can we work this out, Victor? We can pretend the baby's ours. Victor said. Yes, that's it. He continued. What? I gasped. Victor, I'm pregnant. I was going to surprise you with the news when you got back today. Victor's eyes brightened as he looked at me and exclaimed, Oh, Lily, I'm so happy. We can tell everyone it's surprise twins. It happens, right? Twins? I repeated, my voice rising. Is that what you think this is? Some kind of convenient cover-up? No, Lily, I'm not saying it's convenient. I'm saying we can make it work. For the baby's sake. And for us. My eyes searched his, looking for any shred of sincerity, but all I saw was a man desperately trying to cling to what he had lost. And what about her? I demanded. What about Sarah? She'll understand, he said quickly. We'll tell her it's for the best. For the baby. So the baby won't be considered illegitimate. My mind raced. The thought of raising another woman's child as my own was unbearable. But the thought of my baby being tainted by the scandal was even worse. We can do this, Victor said, trying to take my hand. We can be a family. But I knew that family was built on trust, and ours was irrevocably broken. I pulled my hand away, my voice steady. No, Victor. We can't. Not after this. The room felt smaller, the air thick with the stench of deceit and regret. Victor opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. I need some time to process this, I said firmly. And I want you to leave. Now. Victor's face fell, the color draining from his cheeks. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mix of shock and sadness. But Lily. No, I said, my voice firm. Leave now. With a heavy sigh, he knew he had no other choice. He said, Okay, Lily, I'll leave for now, but please give it some thought. I know we can make this work. I love you, Lily. Please give me another chance to prove it. He gathered his things and left, the door slamming shut behind him. I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders and the awful pain in my heart remained. I knew that the road ahead would be long and I had a very difficult choice to make. Could I really raise my husband's mistress's child, but then again, was I strong enough to make it on my own with a baby on the way? The following days were a blur of tears and anger. Each morning, Victor arrived with an extravagant bouquet of flowers, his eyes filled with hope that I would forgive him. He spoke of our future together, our child, and the family we could still be. But with each bouquet came a new message from Sarah, taunting me with tales of Victor's love and care during her pregnancy. The stark contrast between Victor's pleas and Sarah's gloating only served to fuel my resolve. The realization grew stronger in my heart, I could not live a lie. Nightfall brought no relief. The house, once a sanctuary of love and comfort, was now a prison of pain and deceit. My eyes would drift to my phone, the silent weapon of destruction. With trembling fingers, I clicked on the link Sarah had sent. My heart sank as I scrolled through picture after picture of Victor, his arms around Sarah, their heads tilted in laughter, their love unmistakable. The sight was like salt in an open wound, each image a cruel reminder of the life he had built behind my back. Days turned into weeks, and the weight of my decision grew heavier with each passing moment. I knew I had to act. With a deep breath, I called Victor. I want a divorce, I said, my voice firm and clear. I could almost hear the hope drain from his voice. Lily, please, let's talk about this. I'm coming over right now. When he arrived, I had gathered my thoughts and my strength. Victor, I began, my eyes meeting his with a determination I hadn't felt in years, I've made up my mind. I can't stay with you. I deserve better, and our child deserves a family based on truth and trust. His expression shifted from hopefulness to one of pure anger. You think you can just toss me aside, he spat. You think you can take my child away from me? My resolve never wavered. This isn't about you, Victor. It's about what's best for us. For the baby. I won't raise my child in a house full of lies and resentment. Victor's demeanor shifted dramatically. His eyes flashed with anger. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. You think you can just leave me? After everything I've done for you? My voice remained calm. What you've done for me is lie, Victor. This isn't about what you've done for me. This is about what you've done to us. I paused, gathering my thoughts. I've been thinking, and I've decided that a divorce is the best way to move forward. Victor's eyes narrowed, his jaw tightening. You think you can just take what's mine? You're not taking my child from me, he growled. I stood my ground, my voice unwavering. What's yours? I shot back. You've made your choice, Victor. You chose Sarah, not me, not our marriage, and certainly not our baby. I'm not fighting for something that never truly existed. Now leave. We'll see about that. Victor exclaimed as he stormed from the house as I slammed the door behind him. With that, I picked up the phone and dialed the number for a reputable family law firm. The voice on the other end was professional and empathetic, and I found myself spilling out my story through sobs. Within hours, I had an appointment with a sharp-eyed lawyer named Mr. Daniels, who listened to my plight with a steely determination to help me. He took the phone with the incriminating evidence, nodding solemnly as he scrolled through the messages and photos. We have a solid case for divorce and sole custody, he assured me. With this kind of proof, the courts will see that your child's best interests are not with him. The days turned into a blur of legal jargon and paperwork. I felt as though I was navigating a minefield, each step fraught with the potential to blow up in my face. But with Mr. Daniels by my side, I grew more confident in my decision. We built a case that was as solid as the foundation of the house I had once shared with Victor. The texts and social media posts painted a damning picture of his infidelity, and the sonogram was the final nail in the coffin of our failing marriage. The courtroom was cold and intimidating, a stark contrast to the warmth of the home I had once shared with Victor. The smell of fear and desperation hung in the air as we stood before the judge, our fates about to be decided. The lawyer presented my case with a finesse that I hadn't known he had. Each piece of evidence was laid out, and each message and photo was meticulously analyzed. Victor's lawyers did their best to cast doubt, but it was clear that the truth was on my side. Victor's eyes darted around the room, his hands fidgeting with his tie as the evidence mounted against him. The love that had once sparked in his gaze was now replaced with a cold, hard look of defeat. The revelations had taken a toll on him, his confidence shattered by the weight of his own deceit. The judge, a stern woman with a no-nonsense attitude, scrutinized the evidence before her. She took her time, flipping through the printed texts and glancing at the sonogram with a furrowed brow. I sat stoically, my hand resting on my baby bump. I felt a fierce protectiveness over my unborn child, a love that had grown stronger with each passing day. Finally, the judge spoke. Mr. Castellanos, it is clear from the evidence presented that your actions have led to the irretrievable breakdown of this marriage. The court hereby grants Ms. Castellanos a divorce and sole custody of the unborn child. The words hung in the air, a final nail in the coffin of our relationship. Victor's shoulders slumped, his face a mask of despair. I felt a mix of relief and anger. I had won, but at what cost? My heart felt like it was being torn apart as the reality of our situation set in. The love I had for Victor was replaced by a fiery resentment, but I knew I had to focus on the future for myself and my child. The divorce was finalized, and the custody battle was over. I walked out of the courthouse, the crisp fall air stinging my cheeks with a bitterness that mirrored my heart. I clutched the envelope with the signed papers tightly in my hand, a symbol of my newfound freedom. I had chosen to leave the past behind, to forge ahead and build a new life for myself and my baby. Victor's lawyers had fought dirty, but in the end, the truth prevailed. The text messages and social media evidence had painted a damning picture of his betrayal. The court had seen through his lies and manipulations. I felt a sense of victory, but it was tainted by the pain of knowing I would be raising our child alone. After leaving the courthouse, Victor stormed over to Sarah's apartment and berated her for sending all the text messages that had given me all the ammunition I needed to secure the divorce with sole custody of our child. Sarah lambasted Victor, screeching that he didn't seem to mind the time they spent together in bed and that she hadn't forced him to spend the time with her. Needless to say, their relationship, which was based on Sarah's greed for the material things that Victor could provide for her and Victor's physical needs, wasn't a strong one. The months leading up to my birth were a whirlwind of preparation and anxiety. I threw myself into creating a warm and loving environment for my baby, filling the nursery with soft pastels and sweet scents. I read books on parenting and attended prenatal classes, eager to absorb every piece of information I could. After the birth of my son Liam, I put my master's degree in accounting to good use by securing a lucrative online accounting job with a top 10 firm in my city. My life, while challenging raising a child on my own, was one filled with laughter and cuddles with my son. I spent my off time cultivating relationships with longtime friends I had neglected during my marriage to Victor. And over time, the painful heartache of Victor's betrayal lessened, and I found peace within myself. Around the same time that I gave birth to Liam, Sarah also gave birth to a baby boy whom she and Victor named Jack. However, in contrast to my newfound peaceful life, Victor found himself in a tumultuous relationship with Sarah, who was demanding, lazy, and not very attentive to their son. He found himself juggling his company needs, housework, and the care of their son all on his own while Sarah spent her time out with friends, drinking, and partying. One day, while taking Liam to the nearby park, I ran into an old classmate named Perry, who had a young daughter, Mandy, about the same age as Liam. After talking for a bit, Perry sadly explained how his ex-wife had run off with her boss about a year ago. With our somewhat shared experiences, we found solace in each other's company. Our children got along wonderfully, and we made plans to meet at the park a couple of times a week so the children could play together. As time went on, I found comfort in Perry's steady presence and our children's shared laughter. Our friendship blossomed into a love-filled relationship. After dating for 2 years, Perry popped the question. I shouted an exuberant, yes. And we happily joined our families into a loving home. One Saturday, while out for coffee with one of my good friends, Samantha asked, "Have you spoken to Victor lately?" I replied, "No, he stopped contacting me or coming to see Liam when Perry and I got married." "Oh, so you haven't heard what happened to him then?" Samantha said, shocked. "No, I haven't kept tabs on Victor's life and couldn't care less what happens to him, as it has no bearing on our lives." "Well, I heard that his company is on the verge of bankruptcy right now because Sarah was embezzling hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the shareholders are kicking him out of the company." "You've got to be kidding me!" I exclaimed. "And that's not the worst of it either," said Samantha. "Well, what can be worse than that?" I asked. Apparently, before they discovered the embezzlement, Sarah left Victor for her first love. When Victor tried to sue for custody of Jack, Sarah produced a DNA report showing that her first love was actually Jack's father, not Victor. Now Sarah has taken all the money and Jack and run away with her first love. Victor has been left with nothing. Samantha explained. Lily sighed, feeling neither happy nor sad for Victor's plight, and said, "I guess karma really is the best revenge."